brain. So Shanti, everyone. Welcome to those of you who are able to join us live, and also greetings to all of you joining in later on through the YouTube video. Last week, we had a really interesting morally on the Shiv Mantra. The ocean of love is now accessible to us. And Baba was saying, change your method of dealing with things. Begin to use a more elevated and divine method. And the most divine method of all is to merge in Baba's love. We are so used to handling everything by speaking and doing that it seems very odd for us to handle something by not doing, by being. But Baba is training us that actually, if you think about it, Shiv Baba transforms the age not by doing many things. It's not through actions. He speaks the moralies, but he's not talking all the time. He'll come and speak the morally for an hour and then go again. And so mostly Baba is changing everything through his being. There's a frequency that is generated when you're in that stage of being, and you're especially stable within that soul world and in that subtle region. And Baba was explaining to us, it was the morally of the 18th of January 1994, that practice merging in love. Our target is to remain merged in love through the day, and that's that stage of constant remembrance. But we've got to get there. And by getting there, we practice merging. So certainly for me, this week has been a good experience. I have found it works well. Baba was saying it's the Shiv Mantra. It's not even just a magic mantra. And mantras can be very powerful. They can achieve things for people. But the Shiv Mantra is of a different level. It's the most powerful solution. It's the most powerful basis for success. So this week, I kept reminding myself that rather than saying something, so if someone in the Lokic family or even at work, they were sharing something negative or they're not happy about anything, my instinct would be to say something and try and bring them into a more positive mindset or find a solution. And that just usually, especially in the Lokic family, that just makes them even more negative. And then they just begin arguing with me around how it shouldn't be positive. And so rather than that, just leaving things and merging in love. And really, I saw people change. It just happened. Their mindset just began to change. Much more effective than me saying anything. And then even with practical things, for example, one thing that I needed to deal with, which we needed to have a particular sale on. So a very practical, day-to-day, transactional situation. And we were not getting the interest. And I'm responsible for this particular product. So I just said, Baba, right, I'm going to remain light. I'm going to hand over the heaviness and burden to you. Just merge in love. And suddenly it began to generate interest. And my other efforts were not working. But I was experimenting in Lokic work, family situations, and then with my own self as well, just anything that I'm checking. Again, for example, could be a realization of a past mistake, and immediately you can feel heavy about that. But rather than that, merge in that, because Baba is here to also resolve past mistakes, to cancel them out. I was reminded of Shiva's title, even in devotion, that he is the one that's spoiled, who reforms things that are spoiled. Bigri banane wala. So all of the mistakes that I have made over 63 births, I've now got the God who can cancel all that negative energy. And I'm concerned about the negative impacts I've had on souls and on nature and animals for 63 births. And I now have a God who is available to me, who can actually cancel that energy. So handing over, merging in love, I've had a very good week and a very good experience with that. So I wonder how all of your experiments have gone.
Shanti to everyone. This is Sister Linda from Trinidad. Can you hear me?
Sister Linda, we can't hear you so well. Is it possible to adjust the microphone?
Yes, I can. Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better.
Yes. So you were talking about managing or interacting with lockets, especially when there's conflict and you think that giving them a kind word will be best. But really silence is golden. and just filling the soul with compassion is really what has been working for me. So my 63 births of trying to fix in words, I realized that no, that has to end. And it's a constant reminder to just fill the soul with that compassion and just be silent, you know. And that has worked for me. Even with the locket, right now there's a family member who has bipolar, and this is the I don't want to say challenge. It isn't challenging anymore when I put that child or that family member, you know, before Baba. Om Shanti.
Yes, I have a similar experience, sister. It is always tricky dealing with people with mental health conditions because we have to remind ourselves firstly that they're unwell. You know, and anyway, when you have a look at someone as being unwell rather than negative or bad, then you can only have compassion because it's an illness. And then, as you say, I'm also experimenting with that as well, that actually trying to fix things, we just become heavy in that process, really ourselves. And so involving Shiv Baba, letting things happen, that really, I think, is our lesson. It's our maturity as yogis. Thanks for sharing.
Om Shanti. It has been a good week because what I do is I give all the responsibility to Baba. I say, Baba, I'm your child, I'm the instrument. You're working through me, so the responsibility is not mine. And you have that loving, great, really great loving feeling for Baba. And someday I was cooking in the kitchen, and as I was cooking, I would like have this nice conversation, lively conversation with Baba. Baba, you and I are cooking this food for your children. It's going to be the best food ever, and it's going to be beneficial. And you feel that bubbly happiness, like a bubbly happiness inside of you. And you're saying, I wish I would always feel this way, and your body feels light. And I wish I would always feel this way. It doesn't last for very long, though, maybe about 5, 10 so, but it's a great, great feeling. And I just give everything up and I say, Baba, I'm your child, I'm your instrument. Use me in whichever way you need, whatever help I could do with this body, use me. And I just give everything up. So I'm in a state of, you know, complete neutralism, like you're neutral, you're not connect, you don't hold on to anything, nothing is mine. And that's the way I have done things, and I plan to do things that way. Don't take responsibility for anything, just serve the best way you could and be happy. And that's my feeling of the whole thing. And that's it helps me a lot in that way. I would walk through the garden and I would say, Baba, this is your garden. It's all beautiful. It's a really peaceful feeling. Really peaceful feeling. Shanti.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think listening to you reminds me of the messages we've been getting through the week from Baba in the morning. Baba's been observing, hasn't he, that we don't maintain our happiness through the day. We don't maintain the consciousness through the day. And we used to hear from the daddies how Brahma Baba was just very, very intoxicated. I had the opportunity to see Daddy Janki every day at the London Centre. And I think the best way to describe her was just always like you're saying, a small child. I think this was a speciality of these senior daddies. They never forgot the days of their childhood. And Daddy was always in this, like you put it, bubbly happiness. And just even as she's speaking, it's sort of coming from her body language, just this excitement. She never lost that with age. Yeah, just a continuous feeling of excitement about everything. And I think this is something that Baba is expecting us to develop. He's seeing that our happiness is like mercury at the moment. But as you're describing, it's actually, for Baba, it's part of his value system, that it's more important to maintain happiness than even achieve success. But in our value system, that might not be the case. It might be that we've got to be successful, we've got to be right, we've got to have everything under control, then we can be happy. Well, but actually, Baba's saying that there's moralities where Baba says that even if you leave your body, it doesn't matter, don't lose your happiness. Your happiness is your most important thing. And so Baba's value system is about happiness for sure. And he's observing, it was in the message from Shanti Bhavan this week, that there's a pattern of thinking that blocks our attainment from Baba or removes our happiness. For all of us, there's probably one or two key patterns that keep coming up, which take it away. It can be, like Linda Ben said, it could be the pattern of trying to fix things, or it can be the pattern of coming into questions about things. All of these patterns remove that happiness. And how can we actually learn to remain light no matter what's going on, and reminding ourselves that actually we're not in control, and to not be in control and still feel secure? That's really what I think Raj Yoga is about. Thanks for sharing.
Om Shanti, brother.
Om
Om Shanti, Sister Ranjan Ben.
Oh,
My week has been, I feel, a very productive week. I think throughout my Brahmin life, sometime less, sometime more, Baba is always in and out in my mind. And this week in particular, I really didn't think about merging with Baba, but I've been remembering Baba a lot. And I don't know if it's because I'm closer to my retirement or so that where my job is concerned, I think I've adopted this week in particular a bit of a more carefree attitude in getting my work done, because there's quite a lot still to do. Like currently there's a survey that has to be done, a circular that has to go out to all the ministries department. And the last couple of weeks, because of my being new, I've had a little challenge in getting it right. And because of how I am, sometimes I think I go a little bit too much of getting it out there perfect. And, I talked to Baba and I say, I'm doing this. In my early days of childhood, like in the Murali today, I was remembering again, everything was so easy because this love and intoxication was so high that I also was amazed how much I was able to get done with home, with the office, with service. I have not been able to do that like before. But this week in particular, I was able to get a lot done where my job is concerned and still be able to do some service at the center. So my immersion in love was this week in particular brought about this feeling of compassion. Because even within this was a Lokik family, sometimes I sometimes have my little challenge there, how things are being done. And I was able to look at a particular soul with so much compassion that normally I think I'm always more judgmental at times. And when I sat back and I reflected and I said, you know, I didn't have to try to be compassionate. I didn't give it a thought to say, let me make the effort to do this. It came naturally. And I think it's also because now I have been asking Baba, you know, I am your child. You know my part. I don't know my full part in the future. You know my part. However, you need to use me in that way. And I think was a level of letting go and giving up myself to Baba on a different level than was there previously. While I thought I had given myself up fully, I haven't. I haven't. I don't think I've fully done it as yet, completely surrendered on that level, but I felt a little bit closer this week in that. Oh, Shanti.
I think I share some of your personality traits, so I can resonate with that as well. And there's an old adage that our strengths are also our weaknesses. So it's that perfectionism, that drive for excellence that gets us into positions, that gets us success. And it's that same quality that makes us heavy and that causes stress, that can cause us to spoil relationships with others as well. Because you find that leadership styles and things have changed so much, haven't they? Old school leadership was much more top down. So we've got sanskars of that type of older type of leadership as well, more directional type of leadership. And times have changed, haven't they? You know, people in the world, it's much more of a collaborative type of atmosphere now. And so I've also had to adjust myself, and I'm learning. I've learned a lot actually through my current managers. They, how they do it and how they have those virtues. So it's these things that we have to remind ourselves that our strengths are our weaknesses. This week we've had those Moralies around the definition of Ravan and the definition of Maya, and we know that Ravan isn't another soul. There's no such character as such as Satan or the devil. But when you think about it, what are the vices? They're really just our qualities that have become weaknesses. And Baba is saying to us, okay, how do you hold your virtues and also balance yourself out? He says to us that the deities, or when we were in the deity stage, we were complete with all the virtues. And I think it's making more sense to me hearing Baba again this morning emphasize the relationship. This is the mother and the father. Your connection with the father is the key, the inheritance. Mother Brahma is also there to help you. And I don't think we're capable of balancing on our own. I think it is necessary to have this being who will work with us in this. I don't think we would allow another human being to work with us on this level. We would be resistant to that. So I think that this is what Baba does, is he enables us to use our virtues for service. He doesn't say, okay, sort yourself out first and then we'll think about using you in service. He says, get on with the service, use your virtues, use your specialities. And then at the same time, he says, reflect. Reflect, have you got all the powers? Have you got all the virtues? And it's in that process that we learn to let go. Because we see that, yes, I've got those qualities of leadership and direction and organization and attention to detail. But then I also do need to have that power to accommodate, that power to cooperate. And they have more of this dynamic of easiness about them. We just can't accommodate souls. Like you, what will happen is that we'll see things and say, well, this should be better. This shouldn't be like that, whether it's in the Brahmin family or within the Lokik world. But the power to accommodate says that we accept the variety. And it's a big quality of Shiv Baba, that how he works with all of us, no matter like whether we are really accurately surrendered, whether we're getting there, whether we're falling and getting up again. But he hides all of the Brahmin's weaknesses. He doesn't display them on a board for everyone. He doesn't hold it against us. He accommodates. And each time we connect with Baba, we trust that he's accommodated our weaknesses. And I think why Mama and Baba have been accepted by the whole Brahmin family as parents is also this ability to accommodate. I think with brothers and sisters, there's a percentage. Some brothers and sisters, they're more like parents, but I think we're learning as brothers and sisters to get to that stage. But I think with Mama and Baba, we can trust that. So how do we, like, Brahma Baba was also a very tough taskmaster. When you hear that there are these experiences, he expected things done now and yesterday. He was like that. And Dada Vishwa Ratan shares the experience of making the pictures of the tree and the cycle. And at some point, I want to try and sit down and spend a day to interpret directly in English his experience. It's about 2 hours, so it would take quite a long time to put it into English, but it's really worth hearing. And he shares how Baba would say, right, you've got to design this picture of the tree. And so they had that process of design. And then Baba would say, great, make me 10 of these by Sunday. So they have like 4 days to make. And make sure they're 12 feet by 6 feet or something. Baba wants to send them to Gandhi and to Churchill. So he had these big plans. And they didn't even have like artists or, but one thing you couldn't say to Brahma Baba was, but Baba, we can't. But Brahma Baba was not interested. And Dada Vishwarata knew that if you began putting problems in front of Baba, he wouldn't ask you to do it again. He was only interested in solution-focused Brahmins. So all you could say to Baba was, yes, Baba. And then what they would do is go and meet Mama. And Mama was used to Brahmins coming with these great tasks that Baba has set them. So Mama's response to Dada Vishwaratan was, so Dada Vishwaratan would have been about 21 at the time. This is about 1940, 42, somewhere around that time. And so he's come with this great task. And Mama can see it on his face. So there's a big task to do. So she just said, okay, what needs to be done? And that was Mama's first response, which immediately began to relax. And then he explained, this is what Baba's asked him to do. And Mama's second question was, what do you need? And I think those two questions really began to make Dada light. So he said, well, I'm going to need space, I'm going to need tables, I'm going to need pens and pencils and paints and canvas and help. And so Mama then began to order, because if Mama gave instructions, then people are going to do it. Dada knew that if he goes asking for help, no one will even he'll get one volunteer. And but if Mama says, this is what we've got to do, everyone's behind her and they'll begin to do it. So she organized a team of 10 daddies. Because she said to him that we haven't got artists to be able to do this. So he said, well, if he traces it, if he puts something on tracing paper, they can then copy it. So he needed to, like 12 by 6 is a huge canvas. And Baba wanted 10 of them inside of a week. And they all had to be painted and they all had to be identical. Baba would notice if something was out. And so they worked 24 hours a day for a week. And they delivered it. They delivered it. So Baba was a very tough taskmaster. I've heard many stories from Daddy Janki like that too. And
She was one of the helpers, wasn't she?
Don't know.
Yeah,
so.
she said in the class.
Don't know. But there was this, throughout, whenever they were opening centers and things, Baba's expectations were always very high. And there was no question of saying no to Baba or putting problems in front of Baba. It had to be done. Dada Chandras used to share that he was in charge of managing construction works in Panda Bhavan. And Mama was returning from a tour once. And the night before, Baba had the thought, he heard that there was rain due the next day. And he felt that Mama was so important that it would be totally wrong if she got wet as she got out of her car. So he said to Dada Chandras that you have to, this was just in the evening before Mama was arriving, you have to build some sort of a canopy for her car door so that between the car and the building, she doesn't get wet. And Dada said, well, everyone's gone home. So all of the construction workers were there in the day. They've all gone home. No one is. He just said to Baba, it's not possible. And Baba would not accept that. So Baba himself got all the Brahmins together and they just worked through the night and constructed this canopy. And then Mama, she was honored the way Baba wanted her to be honored. And so there's this, I saw with Daddy Janki, that Daddy Janki was about 20 hours a day, well into her 90s. And never lost this energy. Nothing was ever hard. No one was ever hard. Daddy, she was very used to doing cooking and cleaning, and nothing was a problem. She has run centers. Well into her 70s, she was doing everything herself. And then as she got a bit older, of course, others were handling duties, but she was still supporting, guiding, meeting, 20 hours a day. Traveling, nothing ever a problem. And I think it's this, that she was also a perfectionist. Like anything we all did was never quite of the quality that she did it herself. So this is what her approach was. Well. So she expected those standards as well. And she was a tough taskmaster herself. And those sisters and brothers living with her, they've worked very hard. But it was this attitude that nothing is a problem. and it's not going to cause the heaviness. So they did inculcate this ability to maintain perfection, maintain really high standards, and remain light, and maintain the happiness, and generate the enthusiasm in everyone else. And so I think that this is what we are learning. Thanks for sharing. Barbara Ben, welcome. We're just sharing our experiments with merging in love this week. You'll remember last week's Morali, the Shiv Mantra. So I wonder if you'd like to share your experiments.
No, not really, not at this time.
Welcome. Anytime you want to share anything. So if anyone else wants to share anything else, Judy Ben, would you like to share your experiments of the week, and then we can move into other conversations? You have to unmute yourself, sis.
Brother Shalom, I'm so glad we're talking about this. But I find that I am not sure if I'm having success when I think about Baba and trying to accomplish certain things. And I keep wondering the reason why. For example, I was in a meeting and I really, it was going to be a difficult meeting. And I expected a certain result. And I did not get the result that I expected. So I think I'm not doing something right. I don't know what it is.
Maybe, but do you remember it was at the end of the Borg message from Om Shanti Bhavan this week, Sister Shashi's one, and the Baba made this comment that whatever comes your way, it's making you move forward. It's making you complete. And I mean, I would say that a lot of the time, I also don't achieve success in that sort of definition of success. But I think that the point about the success is that whatever are the different results in the short term, we are developing ourselves through that. So you will have these experiences where it's failure, basically. So from an objective perspective, it's failure. And how you're handling that failure and maybe turning it into some success, that's actually where you need to develop. So for example, like you're saying, you've got a situation and you've visioned what success looks like. Now you should hold that vision, because one of your challenges is while things are not there in the shorter term or medium term, you're holding maybe a long-term vision. And so your challenge is going to be, can you stick with that vision? Can you stick with that positivity? Even though in the short and medium term, you're not seeing the result. It will be similar with your own self-progress. Many sanskars that we need to change, they don't change that quickly, certainly not as quickly as we would like. And on one side, it's correct. It is our lacking, because Baba says you've got to reach such a power of yoga that you can change in stone. So we do want to get there. But along the way, we have to learn patience. We have to learn perseverance. We have to learn courage. We have to learn accommodation. So I think that I understand what you're saying. And I think that on one sense, you do need to reflect that, is there an adjustment you needed to make? Is there extra yoga you needed to have? Is there more understanding you needed to gain so that you do achieve more success? On the other side, I think that things just usually don't turn out the way we envisage them immediately. And so we have to be able to accommodate and be resilient. The interesting thing of confluence age is Baba asking us to develop deity qualities in the Iron Age. That's the real interesting thing, and we wouldn't be able to do it without Baba's help. But deities have deity qualities when there aren't failures, when there aren't challenges. So it's all very well being complete with all virtues when there are no challenges. But Confluence Age is really about the 8 powers. We don't usually say the deities have the 8 powers. We usually say the Brahmins have the 8 powers. And this is because we are challenged with living in the Iron Age, and we have to use the divine virtues. So you need the 8 powers together with the virtues, together with the knowledge. And it was a blessing of 2 days ago, I think, about becoming complete with all the powers. Maybe it was yesterday's blessing, being complete with all the powers. And so what you'll find is that the powers always work in opposites, and we have to be 100% in both to become completely successful, and that takes time. If we take the example of tolerance, you'll notice that another one of the 8 powers is the power to face, or the power to confront. Those are opposite powers. So we are being challenged with being complete in both the opposites. We've got the power, so for example, part of the power of, say, decision making. So you, as you say, you envisage something, you would have planned for it, you would have approached it in a certain way. So you would have been utilizing the power to discern and the power to decide. But another power is the power to accommodate. Another power is the power to withdraw. Now they're a little bit opposite there. So maybe you actually had to learn in this situation to withdraw from the plans you had made. And so this is what Confluence Age is about. It is about, can we utilize all of the 8 powers at the right time? And we had a few sections at the end of Sunday Moralies where Baba speaks to the daddies, and I noticed he made this comment 1 or 2 times in different Moralies, that you daddies are going to become part of the 8 jewels because you have been using the 8 powers completely over a long period of time. So he was making this connection between the utilization of all the 8 powers over a long period of time and coming in the 8 jewels. So what he's suggesting to us is that these daddies were not necessarily successful in that everything just was easy for them. But he's suggesting to us that through all the challenges, through all the errors, they developed all the 8 powers. We know that from Brahmababa's story as well, that so many different challenges, sometimes some things went wrong, sometimes they entered into phases of the yajna where there wasn't that sort of easiness, really. Like you could say that one of the success criteria should have been continual wealth, for example. They started off with a lot of wealth, then went through a dip, then it's gone up again. So you could use easiness as a success criteria, but actually there wasn't that in Brahmababa's history either. But he learned all the 8 powers. He utilized all the virtues through those different ebbs and flows. Does that help, sister?
That helps me a whole lot. I think my problem is that I have not been fully engaged in the Murlis and in understanding the powers and the virtues, and so I probably am not having success because I talk to Baba, I ask him for certain things, and then I'm not, like, you know, I'm still waiting for him to give me an answer as to what I need to do with my house. And am I going to repair it? Am I going to sell it and move to another place? So I've been waiting for a while for him to give me the answer. And I don't know. I don't know what's to come. I don't see anything happening right now.
Yes, I understand what you mean. And I think that it's part of this shift from being a devotee to becoming a master. So I think you are waiting for Baba to give you an answer, and Baba's waiting for you to give him the answer. So you now have to become the Shiv Shakti. So as devotees, we are in a weak state, asking for power. And Baba's approach is empowerment. So he is saying, right, I'm going to equip you with the knowledge through the Muralis. I'm going to make these 8 powers available to you. But remember, one of them is the power of decision making. So if he decides for you, you don't develop that power. And it might take time, so you might need to have time in silence, really think things through, and maybe even use discussion and talk it through with others. But Baba is expecting us to become leaders, because then we've got to go back around a cycle of rebirth without him. So if we are just reliant on him, it won't help us in the long run. And this is why he's wanting us to refine our decision-making power. So like you say, it could be big decisions like that one, it could be smaller decisions. What Baba says is focus on 2 things in particular. One is developing your concentration at Amrit Vela. The more that we can remain thought-free at Amrit Vela, make our intellect plain, that actually assists our decision-making. And then secondly, treat each day's morally like a letter from Baba for you personally. So understand that Baba is in the subtle region. So our great benefit is that our mother and father, they don't take rebirth. In all the other religions, the religious fathers, they take rebirth. But Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba, they are available. So they haven't taken rebirth, which means they're accessible. Even if they spoke this morally in the 1960s, today they know that it was going to be repeated. They can see the 3 aspects of time. So they knew we were going to hear it today. So they filled those words, keeping us in mind that we were going to read it and hear it today. And then today they recreate, because they are still here, so they recreate the atmosphere and the blessings behind all of those words for us today. And Baba said, it was in one of the Sunday Moralies a few months ago, where he was answering this question that in Brahma Baba's days, people could write to Baba and then they would get a written response back. So Baba said, each day's morally is your letter from Baba. So you'll get the answers in each day's morally and treat it personally. He's writing to me. So what is Baba saying to me today? Through that, the intellect continues to become refined. And we begin to understand Baba. What are his values? What are his priorities? What is he wanting from me? How does he see the world? How does he see time? So we get to know Baba that way. And so it's not a short process of becoming a good decision maker, becoming a refined decision maker. It's a process over years of hearing moralities, having yoga, and we become more and more refined. Baba's aim is that by the end of Confluence Age, all of us have become self-sovereigns again. So the deities of the Golden Age, when we reach that stage again, we don't make mistakes. So in the golden and silver age, our intellects are very, very clear. So I think at this point, we don't have that clarity in the intellect, so we feel insecure. So it's natural to need Baba's help. But I think it's going to be your combination of Amrit Vela and then hearing carefully in the morally. And then thirdly, you're going to have to overcome the barrier of not trusting yourself. And Baba's going to say, right, child, what's your decision? Lady Janki used to give this wonderful narrative of her experience of experimenting with Baba. In the days when Brahma Baba was around, he used to like to do a lot of hill walking. He had angina and diabetes, and one of the key things with those conditions is good exercise and cardiovascular. So Brahma Baba was very good, really, with his exercise routines and dietary controls and things like that. So right up until his late 80s, he was trying to keep a good routine of daily walking and hill walking occasionally, maybe a couple of times a week. So in Mount Abu, he would go up, and when Daddy was a bit younger, she used to be able to walk with him sometimes. And she can recall the times where they used to go in a group, and Baba was taller as well. He was about 6'2", and Daddy was about 4'11", and Mama was even shorter, about 4'8", or 4'9". So when you meet like these daddies, they have great auras, so they feel bigger than they are, and then actually physically they're not that big. And you can imagine sort of like little pigeon steps feet trying to keep up with Baba's 6'2" strides. And so they inevitably fell behind most of the time. And also they were not used to the craggy rocks, and I'm not sure how good their footwear was really. And but the thing was that Baba would always say to them, children, you got to keep up. Baba is heading for Shiv Baba. You're going to have to keep up with Baba. So he was saying to the daddies, you're going to have to keep up in your efforts, and you're going to have to keep up in this walking. So Baba would be the leader sometimes in that group, and they had to keep the momentum going. And knowing that it's quite helpful when someone is a group leader when you're walking, because you feel sort of supported by the fact that they're leading. You don't need to think about the route or anything like that. You can follow. And then another time, she found that Baba was standing at the back of the group. And he was saying, children, you go ahead. And they were setting the pace. And Baba was saying, Baba's at the back and he's keeping an eye like a shepherd, looking after the flock. And in that situation, Daddy ended up at the front of the group. And she was with her asthma and her small legs. But she felt she could keep going because she knew Baba was behind her. And there was that security of the shepherd behind the flock. And when she was in London, she said this was her. She would emerge these two scenes whenever she needed to take decisions, whenever she needed to do things. Sometimes her experience with Baba was he was leading the way, and she just needed to follow. So there would be some circumstances where drama was just enabling, like Baba was just enabling drama to just happen. And you just got to go with it. And then other times, Baba was the backbone. He was the shepherd, and he was saying, daughter, you decide, and I will support. So I think you can keep those two images as you take your decisions. Sometimes Baba will lead you and drama will just happen. Other times, Baba's your backbone. He's waiting for you to lead.
Well, Baba is giving me the answers through you, Brother Shalan.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to claim that, but I think we as a family, we support each other, don't we? That's our job as the Brahmin family, as brothers and sisters. And some of us have been just walking this path, stumbling over, falling down, getting back again, grazing our knee, patching up our knees. And why have we done that? So that we can say to those walking afterwards, be careful of this rock here. You don't need to stumble as well. So that's just our duty. So Ranjan Ben and I just feel we are passing on a lot of the things we learned from Daddy and a lot of the things we're experimenting and working on. So I'm not sure I can claim that Baba is speaking, but it is certainly passing on learning. Would anyone else like to share anything before? I mean, it's sort of linked with today's topic about eliminating waste anyway, but would anyone else like to share anything before we move into morally?
Brother Om Shanti again.
Om Shanti.
And before I get cut off, I missed a little bit. I just want to say, Rajan Ben, Om Shanti, lots of Baba's blessings.
Om Shanti.
Yeah.
Speak louder.
Okay.
Om Shanti.
Yeah, I heard.
Okay.
So, I just wanted to add it in my conversation with the group. A lot of times when this is my experience, and it is even today, when I stay with Baba and there's this conversation with him, a lot of realizations come. Like, well, just simply like today, Baba is saying, don't forget your your godly spiritual birth. I didn't hear that before today. So I say, oh, this is what it means. Don't forget the days of your childhood, and then the song. I didn't read them early the night before. So, it's just a simple little realization. And even some things the sister was sharing about how, the house and whatever, I heard that part. What I had found is when I write my letters to Baba, physically write my letters to Baba, it brings a lot of clear thinking in how I want to move forward with whatever is my desire. And then, the solutions come. It doesn't come right away, depending on my, awareness of, this is Baba's conversation with me, and I've really experimented with that, and I have had solutions, especially like when I was sharing before about the Lokic mental illness. Even right now in this in my journey, there are a lot of situations where you have to face the mental illness of persons. And when you put Baba, because it's not, I have to say to myself, I am not doing it, is Baba. My language has to change in my thoughts, in the oral way that I speak, and the consciousness heightens. It becomes elevated so that I could move forward. Om Shanti.
I think it's a very good suggestion. I also have had many good experiences with writing. So let's practice that this week, even if it's a few lines. just writing physically to Baba in a notebook, and just handing over that letter. And then let's see how the answers come through the Muralis. Treat each day's Murali as the response. And then let's see what Baba is saying to us. And then have a look also what responses come in drama. I agree with you. I think there is something about the physical act of writing that actually helps us to also let go. When we see something in words and we read our own thoughts, actually it helps us to become more clear, as you say. So I think that's a very good suggestion. Let's practice that this week. Good to see you on screen, Cecil. Would anyone else like to share anything or ask anything before we move into the Murali? Okay, so we've had a few days around the narrative of waste and eliminating the waste, and it's not really a new topic or another topic. It's one of our main topics, of course, that we have to think about. But I thought it was interesting yesterday where Baba was asking us to ask ourselves, how did I end up here? I was in heaven. How did I end up in this situation? And it really gets us to think. And then he was connecting it with waste. That one of the things about any type of battery, any type of energy storage is waste. Waste is going to be where we regret. If you have a battery and you're using it, then you're using it. You're using it in a worthwhile way. But where you left some sort of gadget on unnecessarily, you left something on it, you left your phone on, you thought you turned it off, and then you want to use the phone and the battery has died. That's where the regret is. So the regret is in the waste. And Baba is saying that the soul is a battery. And through your 84 births, you have been using the energy of the soul. And it depletes, but in the golden and silver age, you're using it. You're not regretting. You're not wasting anything. You're just using the energy of the battery. But from the copper age onwards, you've got 63 births where a lot of your energy has been wasted. And it could be through your thinking, it could be through your looking, it could be through your actions, could be through your time. Ultimately, Baba says to us that the bhakti we've been doing has all been a waste as well. A lot of the things. So a lot of our life has actually been structured around things which don't give the results that we hoped for. So there's those levels of wastage. But then we've got the wastage of the normality of being a human being. So our average householder householder lives, has been one of creating waste. If we think that what does it being a family person involve? We speak, we interact, we do things, we go to places, we purchase, we use, and we're not really thinking about efficiency most of the time. We've been thinking about it more in recent years because we know more about the environment, but for most of these centuries, we've not been thinking about any of that, really. And so we have a family life which is really normalizing waste on every level. And we don't think about waste thoughts. Waste thoughts is a concept Baba has taught us. We just think, we just speak, we just do. If we are enjoying our time, we would not consider that to be waste. It's Baba that begins getting us to think about that. That is that really useful? Is that really improving your condition? So waste is really a big thing for us because it's become normalized. And we have to challenge our patterns of thinking. If we go on a retreat or we go to Madhaban, we get a taste of what life could be like without waste. And I think that's why Baba's very keen on retreats. He has always liked them, right since the early days of Karachi. He has been very keen that people come on a retreat, even to do the 7 days course. So I think that when in our family life, it's very, very difficult to get away from waste. In the workplace, it can be very, very difficult to get away from waste, depending on the workplace culture. So these are challenges from us. In our centers as well, we can develop normalization of wastefulness. And if no one challenges or questions, actually it just becomes normal again, even there. So Baba is getting us to check ourselves. And we're going to hear a Murali now from, have you got it? No. I asked you to bring the book.
Oh.
Okay, Benjamin's just fetching the book. So
95.
the 95, 96. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And that Murali, it's got 6 keywords. I mentioned 3 of them this morning in the recording, and these are the negative ones. So the first reason Baba's giving us for waste is Barchintan, which is thinking of others, externalized thinking. The word par, P-U-R, that means external or above. And Chintan, C-H-I-N-T-U-N, with a soft T, C-H-I-N-T-U-N, that is like your pattern of thinking. And then the same word par in front of darshan, D-U-R-S-H-U-N, darshan, that means looking. So it's externalized looking. So externalized thinking, externalized looking. And then the third one is Mat, and Mat, M-U-T, means opinions. So being influenced by external opinions. So Baba is saying that these 3 are the main causes of Brahmins' slackness in efforts. And he's observing that for many Brahmins, the vices are not even troubling them that much. But these patterns of wastefulness, they're actually causing more damage for the yogi soul. And he's saying replace those with the word swa. So S-W-U, swa, that means self. So if you replace par, the externalization, par, with swa, swa means self or internalization. So Parchintan becomes Swachintan. You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the internal. Pardarshan becomes Swadarshan. Looking externally becomes looking at yourself. And so this word in today's blessing about spinning the cycle, it's actually this word, Swadarshan, looking at yourself. Who are you as a soul in the cycle? Who are you in the golden age? Who are you as a devotee? Who are you now as a Brahmin? And who will you become as an angel? So that's Swadarshan. It's also thinking about the weak parts. So how do we change ourselves? How do we transform our weaknesses? How do we remove the alloy of negativity and sorrow? And then you've got Shrimat. So the final one is replaced, the final bar is replaced by Shri. S-H-R-E-E, and Shri means elevated. So we're no longer worried about other people's opinions. We're thinking about Shiv Baba's opinions. So Shiv Baba gives us Srimat, and Srimat are Baba's opinions, Baba's priorities, Baba's values that we hear in the Murali. And we're now thinking about, how do I match up to that? What is Baba going to think about me, rather than what are others thinking about me? So Baba is saying, have a look at your sanskars, because as householders, as family people, we're always worried about others' opinions. We're always looking at others. We're always thinking about others. That's what householders do. The average human nature is quite gossipy, really. And people are trying to get out of their own, thinking about their own problems by thinking about others' problems. So we've developed all these sanskars. And then, of course, we've got news and entertainment and all of these structures, social media, they're also structures around wastage. Like, how do we occupy ourselves and not get bored? But Baba wants us to now occupy ourselves by thinking about the morally and focusing on yoga.
Is it this
Shall I,
one?
shall I find it?
This 25th, 11th,
I think so. That sounds right.
Parmatan.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
25th November.
Yeah. I'll hand over to Ranjan.
Sorry about that. Om Shanti, good morning. This is the Murli of 25th November 1995, 25/11/95. And the theme is become free from following the dictates of others, thinking of others and looking at others, and become one who uplifts others. Today, Bap Dada is looking at all those who are the children of the Father, those who are special souls, whether they are from Bharat or from foreign lands, whichever corner they may be in. Bap Dada sees all the special souls as being very close to him. Bap Dada is happy to see his special children, just as you children experience happiness on seeing the Father. Do you experience happiness? This is why you come running here to Madhuban. So too, the Father also has the happiness that each child of his is a special soul. Whether you are aged in body, uneducated, little children, young people, or householders, in front of the whole world, you are special. No matter how many miracles the scientists show, even though they may have reached the moon, in front of the special children of the Father, they are ignorant. They know the 5 elements and have even attained victory over them. But have they come to know about a tiny point of light, the soul? Here, if you ask even a little child, who are you? What would he say? He would say, I am a soul. He would even show you where the soul resides. But ask a scientist, what is a soul? He has not yet been able to know the soul. So in terms of the great history and in terms of this world, you are special. A 5-year-old child is more special than one who does not know the soul. At the beginning, you all had a very intoxicating song. Do you remember which song it was? There was a song. No matter how great a lord or merchant, a leader or an actor someone may be, if he doesn't know Alpha, if he doesn't know himself, what does he know? So you are such special souls. Here on one side, you have the uneducated old mothers, and on the other side, you may have Mahatma, great souls, Mahatma. Yet the old mothers would say with intoxication that they have attained God. You old mothers would say this, would you not? Do you say this? The Mahatma would say that it is very difficult to attain God. Whereas here, what would someone who is 100 years old and has faith in the intellect say? You may continue to search for God, but I have attained God. So what is the Mahatma compared to you? Householders would say with intoxication that they sleep on a double bed. Many of you sleep on a double bed, do you not? However, you say we are still pure. Even whilst living together, the Father is in between us. And what would a Mahatma say? He would say that it is impossible for fire and cotton wool to live together. And what is it for you? Householders answer, is it easy or difficult to remain pure? What is it like? So Baba is asking householders to answer, is it easy or difficult to remain pure? What is it like? So it is easy, or does it sometimes feel difficult? Those who are strong can speak in even a large gathering and say with intoxication that purity is their original religion. It is not another's external religion, but their own original religion. Whatever belongs to the self is easy to follow, whereas whatever is external to you feels difficult. Impurity is an external religion, and purity is your original religion. So, do you know your speciality? Many new ones have also come. However, no matter how new you are, the lesson of purity is firm, isn't it? There are some children who say that for 1 year, until they meet the Father, they remain all right. And that is because everyone knows that this discipline is a must. However, once they have been to Madhuban and seen it, on their return, they become careless. But just think about it. To whom did you make the promise of purity? To the Father. It is the Father's order. So if you become careless after having made a promise to the Father, who would experience the loss? In the Brahmin family, when one leaves, 10 others come. However, the loss of being weak is experienced by those souls. The new children who have come here for the first time, raise your hands. There are many of you. It is a matter of great fortune that you have reached the Father's home. However, do not ever let the line of your fortune decrease even slightly. Continue to increase your fortune. Acha. Teachers have also come. So everyone's name is included in the register. Have you had your name noted firmly in the register, or is it still not decided? From wherever all the new ones have come, your teachers have your list. So is your present mark noted in that or not? Which center does not keep a register of those who are present? You know, it's like a school, Baba school, and in school you ask present or not, have they come or not? And Baba is asking, every center has a register. Is there any center? Baba is asking, is there any center that doesn't keep a register to ask who has come, who is present? Teachers, be honest. Sometimes they may have fallen asleep. Sometimes they may not have been well. Sometimes they may not have been able to attend class. Does this get noted daily? So the students, Baba said, sometimes they might have fallen asleep or not well. So it is teachers' duty to find out, to note all this. And that's why Baba is asking them, the teachers, that sometimes they may not have been able to attend class. Does this get noted daily? Those teachers who maintain a daily register and have a present mark for every day, raise your hands. Acha. Are you regular or only sometimes? Or do you miss 2 to 3 days sometimes? Have you fixed someone for this? If all the teachers have passed, you may applaud. So what should you do now? After 3 or 4 months, all the new ones you bring here, whether brothers or sisters, are initially intoxicated. And then the intoxication gradually wears off. And so after 3 or 4 months, check whether they come regularly or if they have gone touring somewhere. Many do go on tours. They go on the pilgrimage of Maya for 2 years and then come back. And so write their result. But in how many words? Simply write that out of 60, all 60 are present, or out of 60, 40 are present. Simply write these 2 words and address it to Dadi Ratan Mohini. Address the envelope to Dadi Ratan Mohini. Note that on the cover you address it to the Brahma Kumaris and inside you write to Dadi Ratan Mohini. You may write Brahma Kumaris but address it to Dadi Ratan Mohini in big writing. Otherwise, this one, Ishuben, will receive a lot of post. We shall see how many special souls reveal their speciality. In the world outside, what does everyone say when a child is born? They say, may he live forever. May he have a long life. So Bap Dada also wishes to see the eternal speciality of eternity of the special souls, not the speciality of just a short while. It should not be something that lasts for just 1 or 2 years. Only those who remain eternally receive an eternal reward. Do you want to explain anything? No. Okay, it's clear to everyone, I think. So, are the mothers strong? Are you strong or weak? Baba is asking mothers. What are you? Speak loudly. Are you strong? Whether you are 1 year old, 2 years, or 4 years old in knowledge, the completion will take place at the same time. Destruction will take place at the same time. Or will you say that you are still only 2 years old and that you wish to have your silver jubilee and then destruction may take place? It will not be like this. This is why those who have come later have to go further ahead. You can earn a great deal in a short time. At least you have received time to make effort. As you progress further, you will not receive even this much time. You were told earlier that the board for being late has been put up, but the board for being too late has not yet been put up. So all of you are lucky. Simply continue to move forward while keeping your fortune in your awareness. Do not get involved in other matters. Baba says, today, Bap Dada was seeing why children's time for making effort goes to waste. Now Baba is coming to the waste. So Bap Dada was seeing why children's time for making effort goes to waste. No one wants this to happen. Everyone wants their time to be used in a worthwhile way. Yet, in between, sometimes half an hour, sometimes 15 minutes, and sometimes even 5 minutes are wasted. And so, what is the reason for this? Today, Bap Dada saw that there are 3 reasons why the effort of the majority of you is very little or weak. You were told about this earlier also. It is not anything new. However, Bap Dada has been telling you from the beginning what you should pay special attention to in the Diamond Jubilee. And so there are 3 reasons for this. One is that whilst moving along, you mix the dictates of other souls with Srimat. That is Baba's elevated directions, Srimat. Someone may have told you something, and you would think that the one who has told you that is a very good, honest Maharathi. You even have faith in that soul. And when such a soul relates something to you, it is interesting. And of course, it is good to hear news. Just as you love listening to the news of the world, so too you also love listening to the news of the Brahmin world. So having faith in that soul, you merged within yourself whatever he told you. You did not discourage him. You heard it and merged it within yourself. Now, of course, it may be true news. Not all of it is false. Some may even be honest, but What is the Father's direction? Is it Baba's order that you may listen to such news? Baba says, no. Whatever you have no connection with, if it is just interesting news and you cannot do anything about it, if you heard it but were not able to do anything about it, where would the news go? It would enter your intellects, and so your time would be wasted. You know, it was just today's Murli. Baba said in Dharana also, it's the company you get. And today Baba said, do not speak or listen or relate to others. And so Baba, this Murli also, in 95, Baba pointed out where the time is wasted. So Baba is saying, it would enter your intellects, and so your time would be wasted, would it not? Why did you mix the dictates of others with the Srimad received from the Father? Father's direction is that you, whilst listening, you should not hear. So why did you hear it? So whilst listening, why did you hear it? You instilled that habit. Yeah? So today's Murli was all about habit and wasteful things. For instance, someone may relate some news to you once and you enjoyed that very much because it was something new. Sometimes it happens that you listen to them once, and so where will that go the second time? They will come to you. You became a dustbin for them. Means you took interest, and so they would come. Baba says it's like a throwing waste into a dustbin. Whatever such news they have, they will come and relate that to you because you listened to them before. Otherwise, explain to them and liberate them from such matters. Do not increase your interest by listening to them. However, if you do listen to them and you are able to do something about it, then do it. When you listen to them, do you have that much courage that you are able to apply a full stop in them and in yourself for all time? So here Baba says you need a courage to apply full stop in them and in yourself for all time. There should not be the slightest feeling of dislike, not even in your thoughts or vision, for also the one whose news is shared. So it's you can think which out of the 8 powers you have to use here. So Baba is teaching us how to use the 8 powers. So there should not be the slightest feeling of dislike, not even in your thoughts or vision, for also the one whose news is shared. So it's like power to accommodate and also keeping yourself safe. If you have this much power, then it is not listening to them, but it is like bringing benefit to them. However, it is seen that the majority of you collect rubbish, and little by little, this creates a difference between behavior and activity. And even if there isn't anything else, you will not have any feeling of serving that soul, but there will be heaviness. This is known as mixing the dictates of others with Srimad. Is this clear? Baba is asking, is this clear? Even Bap Dada relates news to you. But what happens is that the intention of the majority of you changes. Even in relating something, the intention changes. One person would come and say that he saw two other people talking. Having heard one person, the second then would add that the way they were standing was not good. The third person would say, it happens like this all the time for that one. Therefore, the intention changes so much. What their intention was and what the intention of the conversation was. There is such a big difference. So this type of dictate of others spoils the atmosphere. Therefore, the reason why time is wasted is firstly by following the dictates of others, and secondly by thinking about others. If you hear something from one person, do not relate that to 9 or 10 others. This should not happen. Baba says this should not happen. Then it's spread among lots of others. Even when others are in a faraway country, you would write to them about how something new happened, and that you will definitely tell them about it when they come. So, what is this? Thinking about others. So that's like par chintan, like Shailen explained. Rather than that, Baba says, spin the discus of self-realization, Swadarsan Chakra. Not per, not the other way, not somebody's thoughts. If you tell 4 people about something, you spoil the feelings of the 4 people for that one person. And once the thinking of others starts, its speed becomes very fast and carries on for a long time. Thinking about others does not finish in 1 or 2 seconds. Why? Bap Dada tells you that in order to make someone interested in listening to knowledge, you should relate the knowledge in the form of a story. First, this happened, and then that happened. And so their interest increases in this way as to what happened next and what happened after that. This type of thinking about others is also an interest. The other person then would definitely ask, what happened next? Yes, it must have happened like this. And so the story becomes very long. Bap Dada sees and hears whatever is in everyone's heart, no matter how much someone tries to hide it. Bap Dada does not reveal it openly in public, but he knows everything and he sees everything. No matter how much someone says, no, I never do that. Bap Dada has a register of how many times you did something, what you did, at what time you did it, and to how many you did it. Baba has a register of all this. It is just that he sometimes has to remain quiet. It's a very eye-opening, isn't it? It's like a Dharam Raj, the supreme judge talking. So the second aspect is thinking about others. They would never have thoughts of the eternal self. When anything happens, someone who thinks about others would blame them for his own mistake. And those who think about others are number one in making up stories. They would blame others for their mistake and prove themselves right in such a way that even the seniors who hear them have to remain silent. So, having thoughts of the original self is not just repeating, relating, or hearing points of knowledge. Just this is not having thoughts of the original self. Thoughts of the original self means finish your own subtle weaknesses and your little mistakes by thinking about them and then transforming them. So today, Mama's versions were very invaluable jewels. When Mama also said, Yan, Yoga, and Dharana, inculcation. So, however, all of you are very clever in hearing and relating Gyan, that is, in having thoughts of Gyan or churning Gyan. But the deep meaning of having thoughts of the original self is to be thinking about the self. So today's blessing was like that. So today's blessing and today's slogan was about Shubh Chintak, well-wisher for everyone, others, and also Avyakta signals. Baba said, Brahma Baba made his own efforts, although while seeing others, and he never blamed. He never said, because of this, someone did this, I couldn't make effort, I didn't become complete. Baba just was in his own self-respect and intoxication, and he became complete, and so do the same, follow the footsteps of Brahmachari. So all this blessing, slogan, and Avyakt Isharas and Mamas will help you a lot. I just thought this Murli is really, and today's Murli will help well for me anyhow. Everything started to come to me that this will help me. However, all of you are very clever in hearing and relating Gyan, that is, in having thoughts of Gyan or churning Gyan. But, Baba says, but the deep meaning of having thoughts of the original self is to be thinking about the self. When the results are announced, it will not be seen that someone churned the knowledge very well, or that he used the knowledge for service very well. Before that result, one has to have thoughts of the original self and to transform the self. To have thoughts of the original self means to bring about transformation. To not just think, you are mine, I am yours. Just this is not having thoughts of the original self. To have thoughts of the original self means transformation. So in the result, Bapdada is telling you that when the final result is announced, the first marks will be of your being a practical embodiment of dharana. Those who are an embodiment of dharana will be natural yogis anyway. If you wish to claim high marks, what should you do? What do you give lectures on nowadays? What lectures do you give on nowadays, Baba asked? We talked about earlier on values. So check that you relate to others about the values. First, there are marks on service, but there are also marks for being an embodiment of dharana, inculcation. 1 mark for service, 10 marks for dharana. For becoming an embodiment, it is 10 marks. compared to 1 mark in service. If you are not able to give knowledge, but you are able to create an impact with your dharana, then you accumulate marks for your service. So even doing that, even others will be inspired seeing your image, like putting it in Baba's knowledge. So you are revealing Baba through your stage, and that is a service. It will be included. Many people nowadays think that they receive very little chance for service, that they want to do more service. I should receive a chance first. Others are given a chance, so why not I? It is very good to do service because when the intellect is free, it creates a lot of waste. Therefore, service is a very good means of keeping the intellect busy. Baba says, however, if whatever service you do brings fluctuation, for instance, if you were not given a chance, that is, there was service to do, and you had very good enthusiasm for service, but according to the drama or the circumstances, you did not receive that chance, that if instead of serving others, your stage fell, what service did you do? What practical fruit did you receive of that service? True service, service done with love and service done with everyone's blessing gives the instant practical fruit of happiness. But whilst doing service, if you have any ill feeling, do you know what that feeling is called? What do Brahmins call that feeling? Flu. Means you become ill, and so it's the flu. Feeling of flu. What does someone who has flu do? He goes to sleep. He would not eat anything, but would go to sleep. Here also, what happens when someone has that feeling? He would either stop eating or sit and sulk. So this is also flu, is it not? If you are an embodiment of dharana and are not doing service with a selfish motive, then you are a true server. One is to do service with benevolent feelings, and the other is to do service with selfish motives, such as that Baba is giving examples, such as that my name will be glorified, that my photograph will be taken, my name will be printed in the newspapers or shown on TV, etc. I will be glorified amongst the Brahmins. My teacher will keep me at the front and will inquire about me. All these feelings are of service done with selfishness. The aspect of the beginning was something different. However, according to the present time, according to the revelation at this time, service will now come to you who are true servers. You will not have to chase after service. Service will itself come to you. If you are a serviceable person who does not receive any other service, Bap Dada says that you still have to serve with your face and your behavior. Your face should give a vision of the Father. Your face and your behavior should remind others of the Father. This is the foremost service. You have to be such serviceable souls who do not have any selfish motives. You should not think that you alone be given a chance. I should be given this chance. Why am I not given this chance? Such thoughts are also called selfishness. Even though your name is not well known in the Brahmin family, though you are a good server, yet your name is not known. Baba has your name. Since your name is in Baba's heart, what more do you want? And not just in the Father's heart, but because Bap Dada keeps the account, when the final number is given, your number will be ahead. You are right that you were not given a chance, and so that is also noted. If you asked for a chance and did something, you reduce some marks by doing that. The account of Dharamraj is no less. It is a very subtle account. This is why you have to be an altruistic server. You should not have any selfish motive. You should have the motive of bringing benefit. If, for instance, you are given a chance, but someone else thinks that it would be very good if he gets that chance and that person is also worthy of it, then if you give the chance to that one, your share is accumulated in that. Even if you did not do it, but by giving someone else the chance to do it, you accumulate your share of it. You do wish to become a true diamond, and so understand the account. Do not move along carelessly, thinking it is all right, it is now finished. The account book is very subtle. The Father does not have to be the Father does not have to do anything. Everything is automatic. Sometimes Bap Dada looks at the children's account book. The first aspect is following the dictates of others. And the second aspect is thinking about others. The third aspect is looking at others. So the first one was Parmat, dictates of others. Thinking about others is Parchintan, that Bhaiya explained. And now the third aspect is looking at others. It is Parchintan. Per darshan. Looking at others is per darshan. The majority of you are very clever in looking at others. When you look at others, where would it go afterwards? It would then enter your intellect. But how can those who use their time in looking at others have time to look at their own self? Many children think that as so many things happen, they are able to hear it and even see it. Well, the greater the gathering, the bigger the things that happen. But why do they happen? Many think that this should not happen. It is right to say that they should not happen. But why do you spend time on whatever you think should not happen? All of them are a test paper. The greater the study, the harder the paper. Such an atmosphere becomes a test paper, examination paper for everyone. To what extent do you keep yourself safe from following the dictates of others, from thinking about others, and from looking at others. Two things are separate. One is a responsibility to look and hear with the feeling of benevolence. It is all right if it is your responsibility and you have benevolent feelings. But to see or listen to or think about other things and thereby to create an upheaval in your own stage is wrong. If you have a responsibility, then a responsible soul has to listen to something and look at others also. But if you consider yourself to be a responsible soul, then before taking on that responsibility, make your break very powerful. Before you climb a hill, Baba is giving us the example about driving a car up the hill. So Baba is saying, if you are responsible for, then prepare yourself, have your powerful break. So now Baba is giving example. Before you climb a hill, you are warned in advance to check your brakes. A responsibility is also an elevated stage. You may take on a responsibility, but first check whether you are able to apply a dot in 1 second, a dot, full stop, in a second. Or is it that you apply a dot, but instead of a dot, a question mark is applied? This is wrong. Your time and energy are wasted in that. First of all, make your break powerful. You saw something, you heard something, and you brought benefit. You did as much as possible and applied a full stop. If you have such a stage, then take on that responsibility. Otherwise, see but not see. Hear but do not hear. Maintain thoughts of the original self. There is benefit in this. Even in the driving, we have this emergency like this, and you have to put a brake, otherwise they fail you. So it is the same here. But this is very subtle and spiritual. So what was the lesson of today? These three aspects. Become free from following the dictates of others, of thinking about others, and of looking at others. And what else should you do?
I think we'll stop there.
Shall I just finish this a bit? Become free, because this is the theme of today.
Is it the 11 remembrances?
No, soon. Yeah, just here. Shall I finish this? So what was the lesson of today? These three aspects. So you know the three aspects. Become free from following the dictates of others, of thinking about others, and of looking at others. And what else should you do? Become free from these things and imbibe one aspect. That one aspect is to be one who uplifts others. Finish these three types of things to do with others, and instead do one thing for others, that is uplift others. Will you know how to become this? Teacher sitting at the front, which aspect will you liberate yourself from? Speak. What will the mothers do? Will you uplift your children or all others? Be one who uplifts everyone. Is this easy or difficult? Those new ones who have come, do you feel that this is easy or is it difficult? Is it easy? Speak. Teachers, speak. Is it easy? No. Bap Dada thinks that it is difficult. So many things happen. This is very difficult.
So let's
Yeah.
take that up another time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
This
want
is
to-
a long
do
Murli,
you want
but
to
it's
share
very,
anything?
no, I have shared already. So if anyone else, but it's a very beautiful, but very, thank you.
So Baba's put a big mirror in front of us. Let's reflect on those lessons and have a look at where we can eliminate waste this week. Would anyone like to share anything before we finish today? Okay, so thank you all for those of you who could attend and be with us live. We always enjoy meeting you. And also warm greetings to all of you tuning in later on through the YouTube video. And let's reflect on these powerful messages that we've got from Baba. Om Shanti, everyone.
Om Shanti.
Thank
Om
you.
Shanti.
Om
Thank
Shanti.
you.
Om Shanti.
Lots to think about
Yes, indeed.
and practice. It's a beautiful Murli.
Yes. Thank
Shanti.
you.
Bye-bye.
Shanti.